This is Miss Boo.
I don't know what she is. A ghost? An ancestor? Some kind of spirit? Honestly, I stopped trying to explain it years ago. All I know is that she has been with me for as long as I can remember. And despite how insane this sounds, I love her more deeply than some people love their own family. I'm a man in my 50s now, and she has followed me through every stage of my life. I don't always see her directly. Most of the time, it's small things. A figure standing at the end of a hallway that disappears the second I turn my head. A silhouette reflected faintly in a window late at night. Sometimes I catch the shape of her standing in a doorway, just long enough for my brain to register a person before she's suddenly gone again. She always looks roughly the same age. Elderly black woman, thin but elegant. Long skirts, sometimes a head wrap, other times silver braids wrapped neatly on top of her head. Depending on the light, she reminds me either of Cicely Tyson or Erykah Badu, which sounds ridiculous considering those women look nothing alike. But somehow both comparisons feel right. And despite how unsettling this entire story should sound, she has never truly made me afraid. Not in the way you'd expect. When I was a child, my mother used to tell me I'd talk to somebody in the hallway outside my bedroom at night. I barely remember it now, but she said she'd wake up around 2 or 3 in the morning and hear me whispering out there like I was having full conversations with someone. One night, she finally opened the bedroom door and asked who I was talking to. According to her, I looked directly past her shoulder toward the dark hallway and calmly said, "The old lady says you shouldn't cry anymore." My grandfather had died the week before. The part that disturbed my mother wasn't what I said. It was the fact she had only cried once, privately, after she thought I'd already fallen asleep. She asked me what old lady I meant, and I told her, "The one standing behind you." My mother never spoke about that night again. As I got older, I started noticing patterns. The woman always appeared more frequently before something bad happened. Car accidents, illnesses, deaths. There was always this strange increase in her presence right before tragedy touched somebody close to me. When I was 16, I woke up in the middle of the night and saw her standing silently at the foot of my bed, staring toward the bedroom window. I couldn't fully make out her face, but I remember the smell in the room very clearly. Old perfume mixed with powder, like something from another decade. The next morning, my cousin died in a motorcycle accident. By the time I reached my 20s, I stopped telling people about her completely because the reactions were always the same. Nervous laughter, concern, questions about medication or schizophrenia. But deep down, I never believed she wanted to hurt me. If anything, it always felt like she was trying to protect me from something I couldn't see. The only time I ever saw her clearly happened around 12 years ago, and I still remember every detail perfectly. I woke up just before dawn and found her sitting beside me on the edge of my bed. Not a shadow this time, not a glimpse in peripheral vision. She was fully there. The room was filled with that dark blue early morning light right before sunrise, and for the first time in my life, I could see her face properly. She looked ancient. Not physically old exactly. It was something heavier than that. It felt like time itself had settled into her features, and her eyes are still the part I can't forget. They looked exhausted in a way I don't think human beings are capable of looking. Not tired from lack of sleep, tired from waiting. She gently touched my shoulder and said, "It's time, child. We have to go." I genuinely thought I was about to die. My heart started pounding so hard I could barely breathe, but the strange thing was that her voice didn't sound threatening at all. If anything, she sounded sad, almost reluctant. I asked her where we were going, but she didn't answer me directly. She simply stood up and slowly walked toward the bedroom door, and I followed her. I didn't even question it. I just got out of bed and followed her downstairs and outside my apartment building. The second I stepped onto the sidewalk, she disappeared completely. Later that same day, while I was at work, somebody broke into my apartment and stole almost everything I owned. Electronics, cash, jewelry, my father's watch, even old family photo albums. The robbery itself wasn't the strangest part, though. The detective handling the case asked whether I knew the intruder personally, because according to him, whoever broke in had spent an unusual amount of time inside the apartment. Drawers had been pulled open and left scattered everywhere. Furniture had been moved. It looked less like a robbery and more like somebody searching desperately for something specific. Then he asked me a question I still think about all the time. Why is there an extra chair facing your bed? I told him I lived alone, but when I went back into the apartment, there really was a wooden chair sitting beside my bedroom window, facing directly toward the bed. I had never seen that chair before in my life. The detective assumed I was lying. I moved out the very next morning. After that, I started noticing her more often again. Not constantly, just enough to remind me she was still there. Animals notice her immediately. Dogs sometimes refuse to walk past dark rooms in my house for absolutely no reason. My brother's cat once sat frozen in the hallway for almost 10 minutes, staring upward at empty space while making this horrible, low growling sound I had never heard from her before. Children notice her too, and honestly, that part unsettles me more than anything else. A few years ago, I was standing in line at a grocery store when a little girl from another aisle suddenly looked directly behind me and smiled. Then she lifted her hand and waved. Her mother laughed and asked who she was waving to, and the little girl answered, "The tired lady." I turned around immediately. Nobody was there, but I could smell that same old powder perfume again. A few months ago, something happened that genuinely shook me for the first time in years. My mother died in 2021, and while cleaning out her attic recently, I found an old black and white photograph tucked inside one of her Bibles. The photo looked like it had probably been taken sometime in the late 60s. At first, I barely noticed the woman standing in the background near a fence line. Then my stomach dropped, because I recognized her instantly. Same face, same eyes, same expression, exactly the same. The photograph had been taken almost 20 years before I was born. When I showed it to my older sister, she went pale almost immediately. Then she quietly admitted our mother used to talk about the hallway woman when we were children. Apparently, our grandmother had seen her too, and according to my sister, our grandmother once said something nobody understood at the time. "She doesn't belong to this family. She belongs to him." I haven't stopped thinking about that sentence since, especially because lately she's been appearing more often again. Sometimes I wake up during the night and find her standing silently in the corner of my bedroom, watching me sleep. She never looks angry. She never looks threatening. If anything, she looks patient. And recently, I started noticing something that honestly scares me more than anything else that's happened in my life. She no longer stays far away anymore. For decades, she always remained in doorways, hallways, shadows across rooms. There was always distance between us. Now, every time I see her, she's closer than before. Closer to the bed, closer to me. The first time I noticed it, she was standing beside my dresser. A few nights later, she was near the bedroom door. Then one morning, I woke up and saw her sitting silently in the chair beside my bed, watching me sleep. And last week, for the first time since that apartment break-in years ago, she touched me again. I woke up around 4 in the morning because I felt someone slowly brushing their fingers across my forehead. At first, I thought I was dreaming. Then I opened my eyes. She was sitting beside me. Same exhausted eyes, same ancient sadness. But something about her looked different now, more solid somehow, less like an apparition, and more like a real elderly woman sitting in my bedroom. I remember noticing details I'd never seen before. The wrinkles in her hands, the texture of her skin, the tiny gold ring on one finger. And for the first time in my life, I realized I had never once seen her blink. Not once. She smiled at me softly and leaned closer. I could smell that same old powder perfume again, only stronger this time. Strong enough that it filled the entire room. Then she whispered, "Soon." I couldn't fall back asleep after that. The next morning, I called my sister and told her everything. There was a long silence on the phone before she finally admitted something she'd apparently hidden from me for years. A few months before our mother died, she started talking to someone in the corners of rooms. At first, my sister thought it was dementia. But one night, our mother woke up screaming and said, "She's waiting beside his bed now." My sister asked who she meant, and our mother answered, "The tired woman, the one who's been waiting for him since he was born." After that, my mother refused to talk about her ever again. I wish that was the part of the story that frightened me most. It isn't. 2 nights ago, I woke up thirsty around 3 in the morning and walked into my kitchen for water. While standing at the sink, I noticed movement reflected faintly in the dark window above it. At first, I thought she was standing behind me again, but when I turned around, nobody was there. Then I looked back at the reflection and realized I wasn't alone in it. There were 2 of us standing at the sink, me and an old black woman beside me. Only this time, she wasn't watching me. She was looking directly into the apartment behind us, like she was waiting for somebody else to arrive first.
If this story gave you chills, don't forget to subscribe, because the next one might be even worse.